Hi, it's Dr. Darnese coming on again, talking to you about your self-care, particularly fibroid issues. Okay, for my sisters who are struggling with fibroids, and you do not have to. So maybe you've watched my overview video already. That's where I kind of give, general landscape of what I've been through, or different procedures anyway that I've had. And I just want to stress that there are various options. Medical professionals do not seem to know what causes fibroids or how to keep them from coming back or even how to cure them, really. So it's up to us as women who are living with them to come up with the best way of life for ourselves, best treatment option. So I wanted to give some information in this video about the myomectomy. And the myomectomy is a surgery that removes the fibroids themselves, not the uterus, not any part of your own body, but the fibroids from your uterus. And that's done through an incision along your bikini line. As I was saying in that overview video, I had a doctor who, stayed up on the research, and he was using some method whereby he only had to, make an incision that was about, well, a lot smaller than generally the usual length of the incision. So I think maybe like 3 or 4 inches or something, as opposed to maybe 8 inches across. So, yeah, I had a doctor who had some kind of device at that time. I wish I knew what the name of it was, but it was some sort of metal contraption that he used to, after he made the incision, he placed it there in the incision, and he was able to kind of like, I guess, open up the incision, as painful and awful as that sounds, but I was out of it, of course, under anesthesia. So, made the incision and then inserted this metal um, device and then kind of cranked it open, and then he could remove the fibroids from that. And, it turned out to be the best thing for me. Let me back up and say my pre-surgery treatment, I think it's so important to find the right doctor. And I really did find a good doctor in Oakland, California. And he spent a lot of time talking to me and explaining what the procedure was, and explaining to me that he was not a doctor to rush in and do a hysterectomy. I was still only about, I think, at my age at the time, I'm going to say mid-30s, I guess, at that time. That's my estimation. And, so he was not encouraging me to have a hysterectomy. He presented me with several options. So one of the things that I had to do in preparation for the myomectomy was to take this drug called Lupron, Lupron, Lupron. And what that did was to shrink the fibroids that I had, so that at the time of the surgery it would be less messy and easier, I guess. And so I had to take this pill for, I'm trying to think, like, I want to say a couple of months prior to the surgery, at least 1 month prior to the surgery. And unfortunately and fortunately, what it does is it shuts down the estrogen production in our bodies, because fibroid growth does seem to be linked to estrogen. So what this pill does is basically throw you into pre-menopause, an early menopausal state, by shutting down or greatly diminishing the estrogen in your body, so that the fibroids are not growing anymore and are actually shrinking, I guess, perhaps. But anyway, for me, what that meant was, as women who are menopausal, they get hot flashes, right? And yeah, while I was taking that Lupron, I started to get hot flashes, and it was no joke. Let me tell you something. I used to make fun of my auntie because I would see her sweating, and just all of a sudden break out into a sweat, and she would just be burning up hot. But I learned my lesson: don't make fun of a woman in menopause having her own personal summer. That is, it's pretty intense and miserable. I mean, the palms of my hands would just all of a sudden turn red, flesh red. My face would flush red. I would feel like heat was just rising up off me, pulsating off my body. Whoosh, whoosh, heat. And there was nothing to do but wait for it to pass. I mean, I could stand in front of a fan, but it was still, hot. So I had to call the doctor back and say, you know what, I need something else because I can't go on with this medicine. And I still remember his response on the phone because I use this response sometimes, especially with the college students who I teach. I said, you know, Doctor Blumenstock, I don't think I can go on with this pill. You know, it's making me crazy and making me have these hot flashes. I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. And he said in a very calm voice, well, that's very unfortunate. I thought, no, you don't understand. This is more than unfortunate. And so what he ended up doing was giving me back some estrogen. So I took a very low dose estrogen pill to try to balance out what was happening in my body. And that did help. It helped because the things that were triggering the hot flashes before did not seem to trigger them. So if I had a glass of wine, that would trigger hot flash. A hot shower would trigger it. But once I started adding in that little bit of estrogen, that seemed to help with that. They did not go away entirely. I kind of just learned to live with them. And then I had the surgery. And then what it did not tell me was, well, the drug is in your system for a while. So even after you finish taking them, you're going to have some residual effect of the hot flashes probably for a little while. Not great. But aside from that, the surgery went smoothly. I mean, I was a little nervous, I have to say. I was nervous beforehand. I never had surgery, and it was a big deal. It's always a big deal to have surgery. But, you know, I came through it. Uh, you know, the doctor they gave me morphine while there in the hospital, so the pain was managed. You know, that wasn't a problem. It was too much medication, actually. But yeah, it turned out to be fine, and it worked for me for many years. Cut out that bleeding. I didn't have fibroids, and I was free of it. You know, I was free of that worry, free of that, you know, heavy bleeding, pain. I was free of it. And if any of you are suffering with it right now, you know what I mean. It's hell to live with. And so imagine yourself when you don't have to live with that anymore. That's what you get back when you make a decision and you say, you know what, I'm going to do something about these fibroids. I've been living with them and struggling with them for too long. And that's why I'm making these videos. It's just to say to my sisters, listen, take care of yourself and don't live with this, just carrying them around in your uterus and bleeding and bloated. I mean, you know what? One of the things that really made me just push me over towards the surgery part, and maybe some of you can relate to this, was sheer vanity. Okay, because my uterus was growing. Obviously, there's growths in it, you know, like a baby growing in there. And I got to the point where I could not wear my pants. My pants wouldn't fasten. And I thought, I'm not getting ready to go up a size in my clothes. I'm not going to have to buy a bigger size. You know, for us women, I'm not getting ready to buy a bigger size in clothes. So I guess I'm ashamed to say that it was vanity that really pushed me to say, you're just going to have to do something. And so I did. And I conveyed to you, you know what, you can do something about it. So the myomectomy is one option that's out there. And I'm sure it's, you know, this was years and years ago when I had mine. So at this point, I'm sure technology are even better. And so just make sure you have a really good doctor. If you are in the Northern California area, I doubt that Dr. Blumenstock is still in practice. He probably has retired by now. But hey, in case he's around, you might at least have a consult with him. Again, that's Dr. Blumenstock in Oakland, California. And that's just one installment. I'll be back with some more, letting you know other options that I found work for the fibroid situation.